It's been 10 months since My People came out. How do you look back on it now?
Beautiful record. I like this record a lot. One of my favorites because it says a lot of the things I want to say. It's more philosophy than music. That there's a real communication between all of us, and so many people denying their own thing. I always believed in the fact that the world is one thing. Even when I was a kid, we were in war. I mean, not like America is in war. We were in war. What's happening there, and in spite of that, I always believed in that unity of people in the world, all kind of people. So I grew up like that. Many tribes. My family is kind of mixed up. I believe in humanity. I believe that in all people are great people in every nation. I've been all over the world, and I've got to consider these people my people.
What motivated you to make that statement now after all of these years? Or have you been doing it all?
All my life. Yeah. But I want to really do a record with it. And when I heard an interview, a BBC Canada interview with Duke Ellington, and he said the same thing I was saying since I was a kid. And he's really my favorite. As not just as a musician, as an overall. Made a great impact on my life. I said, hey, now that's what I want to express. Because he was saying this just in a conversation with an interviewer. And I said, this is exactly what's happening. And one day I will I'll make a record about that. And therefore I have people from many tribes singing. Singing is my favorite instrument. When it's done right, it can be the worst. It can be absolutely the worst. A handful, perhaps, But in every culture, there are a handful of really, really, really outstanding storytellers. That's what it's all about. Music is nothing else. Music is not playing a bunch of notes and chords, and music is storytelling. And there's so little today. Storytelling.
Within music?
In American music. There's hardly any.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's one of those things, it happens and at times it happens in all cultures. There's a very low right now. Ever since I'm just talking about jazz, let's say the jazz culture. I don't consider what I'm doing is jazz in that respect.
Okay.
It has the spirit of jazz and certainly the drive, the rhythmic drive. But for me, it's much more open. Because it's not based on licks of a certain music period or a trend of certain. It's wide open. It goes anywhere, my stuff. And this is a good record too.
It's an amazingly intricate record too.
Yeah.
There's more influences than I can count on it. So was that a challenge to fit it all together?
No, not at all. I've been doing this all my life, man. When I played accordion as a kid, I played like that. For me, it's no big difference. None of this stuff. It's just for people to find out so late, all that stuff. Hip-hop. What is hip-hop? I invented the beat of hip-hop. In 1970, I did this and no drummer could play it. And then I did an album, and you can check it out. It's called Sweetener, and on 125th Street Congress, that's the original hip-hop beat. And I have about 50 recordings of rap and hip-hop groups using that sample of the original sound. And many other things I did in the 60s, which You know, I'm not complaining about it, but when we're talking about it, I might as well tell you what, you know, other people got credit for. This is all right with me, but it's a fact. Because I did this stuff so many years ago. What is called world music today. And I started the damn thing. African music is not a world music. It's not. It's a phenomenal music in its own right, but it's indigenous. See, when I worked with Salif Keita, you know this record I did with Salif Keita? Amen. Because I think it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It was voted in France as the best world music record of all times.
Yeah?
It is.
This is you produced this record, right?
And I wrote all the arrangements and orchestrations and composed. I mean, the arrangements, I have copyrighted compositions because they're very intricate and very, and they can't exist. The background can't exist as full tunes. So, but I'm not trying to put myself into a special spot, but what I want to say is that was so natural to me to play with Salif. And then I found out that they grew up with black market, with the record black market. The young African musicians like Youssou N'Dour, you know, Salif Keita and all the West African masters. Kante Manfila and all these people, they all grew up with weather report music, especially black market and, you know, and Nubian Sundance and things like that. As a matter of fact, they down there in Africa, in West Africa, they didn't have the CDs or the records. They got some pirate stuff that was not a name. They only knew my name. And they thought, because the way the name sounded to them, this was a Zulu band. It's funny, they thought, when they heard it first, they thought it was an African band from somewhere.
Most people don't look back at those early Weather Report albums and think of them as fusion records. They think of them as jazz and rock, where there was so much more to them.
So yeah, it's really weird. I'm gonna tell you, CBS is gonna release a box set, hopefully soon, which my son and me mixed, of live unissued material, live concerts. Absolutely devastating. That is 10 times as good as we put on records.
Is it even better than 830?
It is. Yeah. It is, you know, it is on the same level, but really incredible. And you know, it's better. I think it is better.
And you personally oversaw the compilation.
Oh yeah, they should have the best sound quality. They have this new resolution and the high resolution. I mean, you really hear things. And our record sounds good. I just read in Mix, a new Mix magazine, and they give my son a lot of credit for the sound. They're trying out, they call the field test. That category, this is a column, it's called field test in each Mix magazine. They chose 3 records. They chose a symphonic work for these particular speakers. And then one work by the guy who wrote the article. And then they give reason why they chose those records, and one of the 3 is My People, because of the multiple layers and the nice little hidden type of treasures, you know. It's really a good record, man. When you have time and you really listen to it with phones, it's a killer.
I think both of your 2 new records are possibly 2 of the best things you've ever done personally. Over the Danube and My People.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, this is just a matter of the next one is going to get better and better. Sometimes you don't have the opportunity to have the best musician. I always had the best musicians available, but sometimes you cannot get them all together at one time.
A rumor has it you're a very, very demanding band leader.
I am. Because when I play alone and when I do things are so clear, and I want clarity in expression because I want to tell a story. And when you tell a story, and then you have to tell a story with other people, it is very important that there is a great discipline. And I don't mean we don't play arrangements. We play songs and I make up the arrangements. and with cues. You know, it's like a conductor playing with an orchestra, but the conductor has a score in front of him, and the musicians have music. You know, like in the Danube. There are improvised parts, as you hear, but also the bulk of the music is written, will never change. Has to be conducted correctly, so really everything comes out. The record itself is not nearly as good as the same orchestra plays it now, because we've been performing it several times. And what happened when we went to the Czech Republic to record it with the orchestra, with the Philharmonic there, he had never seen the music. And my music is much more difficult than Beethoven's music or Mahler's music, because the rhythmic structure of my music is coming from the ground, you know, and it's not like just always 16 notes. I break up. You know enough about music to can talk to you about this kind of things. Like in Mozart's music, you always have, the rhythm is usually provided by violins, or if it is provided by woodwinds, they usually move in the 16-note pattern to keep it fully, and they can play that. But my music doesn't do that. One section of the violins might break up with upbeats, and the other ones come in there. And I did this especially for the Danube.
How do you look back at your solo album Dialects and the tour that followed it?
This is the best record I ever made in my life. But the solo touring in the beginning was not a big success. When it worked, everything it was, because people didn't believe I really played all that what I played. Because when you sit and you look up and I'm behind those boxes and play it, there were reviewers at concerts say, well, happened to Zawinul, he's cheating, all he's doing is mixing the sound. I played everything, I didn't even use sequences. I was really always honest.
You did it when you say, okay, so you played all the music solo
live,
rather than just.
I had 2 drum machines because I needed that rhythm, but I played all the bass lines I didn't have any sequencing going on.
I wanted to briefly ask you about Jaco. There's been a lot of really weird stuff being said about you in some musician circles. I've noticed some people credit you for, bringing him to the world, and some people say you might have been partially responsible for his downfall. I'm wondering if you can answer.
I could never even remotely think of anything which I ever would have done to be responsible for his demise or downfall. No way, because it was only. Why is that? Why should have that been?
People, they mentioned, you introduced him to alcohol, maybe to drugs. And
I did never introduce anybody to drugs. I don't use drugs. I gave him a drink one time, and that I don't really feel, I mean, if one drink does it, you're gonna anyhow, believe me. I gave him one time, I said, loosen up a little bit, I did do that. But if one drink did it, then I'm responsible for his downfall.
Okay.
In that case, I am. But drugs, I never used drugs myself.
Did you say in Bill Malkowski's book that you did a little blow? Or?
Hardly.
Okay.
Hardly. Man. I mean, we smoked a little pot here and there, and they had a little thing once in a month or something, but it was not a thing to do. I was a busy guy, man. I had to do a lot of work, man. I was into music. It's for me most important. I'm not stupid. I had a family with 3 children to feed and taking care, I was a real connoisseur about that, and I can openly say this, I haven't done this, I don't know, in 30-some years or no, 25 years, but here and there, when the stuff was right and we were very tired, we were in the studio sometimes 46 hours to mix a record or something. Yeah, it had a little blow, but it had nothing to do with being strung out and having this stuff every day, No, ever. Drinking. Wayne and me were drinkers. I'm still a drinker, but I'm 65 years old and I don't look like I am a wreck. Usually when people drink, they are rats when they are in their 40s. I box when I'm at home every week, 15 rounds. with my trainer, and I do sports every day if I have to go because I have to work out.
Do you hold Jaco in the same esteem as you hold people like Miles and Cannonball?
No.
No.
No, I think he is an inventor. He was an inventor, number one. He created a style. He had a wonderful soul as a human being, but he didn't live long enough, and he didn't contribute enough to be in the same thing as Miles. You cannot do that. You know, you have to respect the people who longevity is something. And for some kind of reason, as a human being, of course, he was phenomenal. I think it's a phenomenal talent in music and many other things. He could paint, he could draw. He was an architect, you know, he was a natural athlete. And he was a wonderful friend, and I felt like a brother of mine or even a son at times. But human being, everybody is the same. But in terms of creativity, I cannot do it to have him on the same level with Cannon and Kendall. I think he was just as influential as they were. In that sense, yes. You know? Maybe he was even more influential than Cannonball because people sleeping on Cannonball still. They didn't get it. This guy was awesome. Mm-hmm. An incredible musician, man. I played with him 9.5 years. That guy never started and never played the same thing twice. And I never heard him make a mistake. He played the most incredible tempi, and he was really a master musician. Jaco perhaps would have become, but I think there was a limitation there.
What was it?
Well, maybe he didn't allow himself. Because I read things. Where he says, it was at about 5-6 months before he died. He was in the house of a friend of mine, a gypsy in Germany, a family. And he wrote down my name with my birthday and his name and his birthday. And then the other page is that I don't want to be a second-hand Joe Zawinul. And he was really, somehow, he was occupied with me too much. He wanted to do things I do. But I told him often, Jaco, we were also friends, true friends, as Wayne and me, you know. But I'm not a person who is, when you do wrong, man, I will let you know. You know, and I think, therefore, those friendships last, until the last day, you know. And Jaco, always loved as a friend, admired as a musician, and I just hoped that he could do better than he did. I think after Weather Report, he made a nice record with that big band, but I think he's deteriorated. He didn't have any hold on nothing, because he really wanted to be with Weather Report. And we never fired him or anything like that, and we never left. What had happened was that in 1980 we had all these contracts, and he wanted to take off a year. And Wayne and me said, you know, Jesus Christ, man, you know, we gotta go on. We cannot wait a whole year until Mr. Pastorius comes back, you know. And he perhaps thought at the time he was not replaceable, you know, and there is nobody in the world who is not.
Do you ever think about your own mortality?
And in actuality, not.
No?
Number one, I'm not afraid of it. And could be the reason could perhaps be that I grew up in an environment where you was always exposed to death every day for years. With bomb attacks at night, at the day, and then actual war in your country is different than you watch a war 1,000 miles away from your home or 6,000 miles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We had the war right there in our own house. It came, and when the Russians came in and all, I mean, it was all every day. I mean, many of my friends dead, and so this type of life prepares you. Right here, a kid with 11 and 12 plays with a rubber duck, and I used to bury people, dead soldiers and all that. Used to bury and kill, steal horses from the Russian wagons and kill them for food and things. When I was 12, and what we did, that was our life when we were 12, and plowing fields with oxen. Well, that's the way I grew up. When there were no men, when the kids were the men. If I would have been 6 months old, I would have been in the military. But I was trained for the military. I was a bazooka man. So coming back to the mortality, so I felt when this war was over, everything was just easy. And I went through some very hard times in America. I was the only white guy to play with black bands in the South during segregation, and often had to sit on the bottom of the car when we drove through, certain parts in the South. And it never faced me, those kind of things. Because I wanted to play music, man. I wanted to play music with the best. And I could play on a level with the best. But then I was tired of the form of that music, of the standard form, pardon me, like AABA, etc., and always the change, I was tired of that. And saxophone, trumpet, setup, and then first saxophone solo, and the trumpet solo, and the piano solo, and the bass solo, and then the fours with the drums, and then back to the melody. It just brought the shit out of me, frankly speaking, after years, And that's when I started changing my music totally. And opened it up with no barlands and a lot of great, great musicians. But Thelonious Monk and Dizzy came to my house one time. And in the morning on a Saturday it was, like today, about that time. And Monk has heard one of my tunes, and he said, "Man, what you doing? I really like that. You're the only one who does different things." Mm-hmm. And one time Dizzy called me, and I was in Oklahoma, and it was Thanksgiving. And Dizzy called me and said, "Man, this is the way music should be." And even this was a few years before he died, And I knew it was on the right track. And Wayne and me, we understood each other since 1959 when I met him. I met him not long after I arrived in the States. And we decided then one day we're going to work together. We're going to have a band together. Because he comes from a different direction, yet it was already that kind of openness, No limits, man. No always the harmony, and always harmonies, Played a lot of pedal tones and only on one harmony, and it's great.
You have a live album coming out early next year. Can you tell me about it?
We're on world tour. We're playing 106 cities this year. Mm-hmm. And including some weeks, like here a week, and we were in Tokyo for 4 days in one club, and we played Catalina's in Los Angeles in February, and go back next week for a week. Mm-hmm. And New York, Blue Note, and this is all counted as one city, so 106 cities is quite a tour we've been doing and we'll continue to do. Yeah, so we recorded in Berlin, and we recorded in Amiens in France, and we recorded in different places, make a great world tour record.
Are live albums things you like? You think they're good documents of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because this is not a thing. When you make a studio record, our studio records sound good. It has a feeling like it is really played, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to this album coming out. There's a lot of new things. It'll be great. And with a bass player who is astonishing. Just left the band. Richard Boner from Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. And so is Victor, but he started doing his own thing, so he left the band. He was a year in the band, Richard Boner. But he's also on this record very heavily. And we're going to have a great, great album, man.
Before you run, let me get you to compare being a boxer to being a musician.
It's two different things, you cannot compare. There are parallels in terms of if you're an improvising musician as I am, because everything I've ever written is improvised, including the symphony. Mm-hmm. I improvised the entire symphony, and then I orchestrated it. But when you play with a band, it is like, it's very related to team sport. Mm-hmm. And all you cannot blink with an eye, you gotta be alert, otherwise you're just missing. But it's all related because you gotta use your limbs, your hands and your feet. And you have to do this in boxing as well. The only thing is when you make a mistake in boxing, a big one, you're gonna have a problem. Mm-hmm. In music you make a big mistake, you have a less of a problem. You don't get knocked out, you just get maybe but in general, it's funny that a lot of boxers, I know a lot of boxers, they all love music. And all the musicians I know really love boxing. It's the greatest sport in the world. It's not even a sport, it's a passion.